I have been trying to make eBay my primary source of income, but I'm also a stay-at-home dad with 2 very young kids. I have a goal to generate $1,000 per week in profit, and with the holidays coming up and time off from school, this is not going to be easy. Let's see what we can scrounge up this week. So good morning. Today is Friday. I've had 24 things that have sold this week, and unfortunately I don't think we're going to quite hit the highs of last week. I finally cracked that $1,000 profit number. A little slow this week by volume, but I do have a couple of really good items in here that I'm excited to share with you. So let's dive in. And up first, got this set of 2 vintage 90s picture frames. Picked these up for $6 from the thrift store and sold them very fast for $59 plus shipping. So it's definitely like a style to keep an eye out for. This like sun and moon. The keyword I came across was whimsigoth. So kind of interesting, but you know, sort of in and a little bit trendy right now. So kind of cool. Sold this Ralph Lauren plaid shirt. Picked up from a garage sale for only $3 and sold for $18 plus shipping. Picked up this Nintendo Wii U from a thrift store for $40 and sold it for $120 plus shipping. Got this vintage 90s Colorado Avalanche shirt for $3 from a garage sale, sold for $25 plus shipping. Picked up this 2005 Frogger tabletop arcade game for $5 from a garage sale and sold it for $36 plus shipping. I've been selling through these. I think we're almost out of stuff now, but picked up this huge bin of Littlest Pet Shop stuff for about $20 from a garage sale. Included a couple buildings, some figures, like a little carrying case, and listed some of the individual characters that were valuable separately. So this one was the Great Dane dog. Again, kind of free, but sold it for $10 plus shipping. Got another vintage clothing item. It's this 90s Ralph Lauren polo shirt. Kind of this like interesting striped pattern, definitely gives vintage 90s vibes. Paid $3 from a garage sale and sold for $19 plus shipping. Sold a bunch of these patches previously. Picked up a huge lot of stuff from an estate sale, and I think maybe we have like $5 or $6 into the whole lot. So really like $1 maybe into this particular bundle. There's a bunch of vintage NRA stickers and patches. Kind of interesting items. Sold those for $15 plus shipping. Paid $5 from a garage sale for this Rudolph figurine set. What year is this from? It's definitely not, it's not like vintage or anything. It's probably like kind of recent. Still sold it for $95 plus shipping. So up next, I paid $12 for these Hugo Boss Delaware Slim jeans from a thrift store and sold them pretty quick for $40 plus shipping. Now, before I jump into this next item, I do have another weird and wacky bolo for you today. So in the 50s and 60s, there was a company making aluminum Christmas trees. Goes by the brand Evergleam. If you find one of these, you have something very special on your hands. So first, we're going to look at the sell-through rate. So, you know, how many are listed versus how many have sold gives you a sense of, you know, how desirable the item is. So there's 114 listed, and there are 223 sold. So very, very fast sell-through. Let's sort by high to low, because there are some crazy ones, especially if you're willing to ship a giant item. So sorted high to low, aluminum Christmas tree Evergleam is my search. I've got this pink Evergleam aluminum Christmas tree, $8,500 somebody got for this thing. We've got another one for $6,000. This one looks about like 5 or 6 feet tall, so this is a big one. Let's see. A 4-foot, 58 branch Evergleam tree, $5,200. A 7-foot yellow for $4,000. 6.5 feet for $2,000. Scroll down a little bit and find some that are a little smaller, like the tabletop ones. We'll do 4 foot and below. Yeah, somebody got $550. Another 4-foot aluminum Christmas tree, $520. 4 foot for $460. And then we're going to sort even lower. 2 foot. This one has the box on bids, $320. Another a 2 foot one with the box, $240. 220, 200, 200, 150. Definitely take a second look when you see these aluminum Christmas trees. So that was our weird and wacky bolo, and now let's jump back in to some of these items that sold this week. And up next, we've got a Rawlings 12-inch Goes by Heart of the Hide is the like model baseball glove. Definitely like one of their higher end adult glove models. Picked this up for $5 from a garage sale and sold it for $110 plus shipping, and it's not even in season. I have a couple more like this listed, so come springtime, I'm hoping these do pretty well. I picked up a bunch of cassette tapes from a garage sale for literally 10 cents a piece. I bought it because there was a couple like 90s rap cassettes in there and already sold those, made some money. Had a bundle of rock cassette tapes in there that I sold as well. Got like another, so the rap cassette tapes, I think I got like $40 for like 4 or 5. And then I got another $20 for some rock cassette tapes. I literally paid, I think it was $5 for the whole bin of tapes. And then bundled all these reggae cassette tapes together and sold those for $15 and free shipping. So after shipping, about $10 out of it. Picked up this tennis racket from a thrift store for $10. It is called the Prince Beast Pro 100. Sold it for $40 plus shipping. My wife picked up this fossil leather wallet from the Goodwill bins for $1. We sold it for $18 plus shipping. Paid $10 for this Diesel Only the Brave men's watch. It is massive, and honestly, I think it's kind of hideous. Like, I would never wear this thing. But hey, it's definitely a style. It stands out for sure. So we have $10 into it from the sale, but it needed new batteries, and they were kind of weird sizes, so I had to pay some money for the batteries. So $15 into it and sold it for $70 plus shipping. Next up is this vintage expansion bracelet. Picked up for $5 from a garage sale and sold for $47 on an offer plus shipping. It would sell for a lot more, but unfortunately one of the links was damaged. But very desirable item, so it sold anyway. So as I'm going through this list, I'm realizing that 2 of the items that sold were actually previous returns. I don't normally talk about returns in videos because I don't think it's really that exciting. It's not that interesting. But just to give you a sense of what happened, like this PlayStation 4 Pro, I don't test items for like an hour straight. I turn it on, I put a game inside, I play with it for like 10, 15 minutes and make sure it runs. It's not really worth my time to sit there and like agonize about like every little detail. Of course, I put a game, I usually play test consoles with fighting games because you have to use all the buttons. So I, test it, run it for like 10, 15 minutes. Usually we'll like update the console and just make sure everything's running smoothly. And then, send it off. Sometimes things happen. It's rare, but sometimes things happen. Unfortunately, this was a pretty good console, this PlayStation 4 Pro Star Wars Edition. Person ran it, said it failed after 10 minutes, and I believe them. What are you going to do, right? So accepted the return, got it back. I lost $20. So I have about $20 into the console because this was part of like a huge buyout that I made like over a year ago. Tons and tons of consoles. I assumed a bunch of them were going to be broken, and they sold them to me for good prices. But this one crapped out. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Had $20 into the console, plus I lost $20 on the return. So I have about like $40 into it now. And then I sold it again. I just immediately listed it and sold it for parts, and it sold for $77 plus shipping. So again, at least like get my money back. You know what I mean? So not a huge loss there, not too worried about it. And then this other one was an Atlanta Falcons jersey. I sold it like 2 weeks ago. Person got it, said it didn't fit, sent it back. You inspect it, make sure it's good, make sure it doesn't smell like smoke or something. Immediately relisted it, and then it's sold within a couple days. So not counting that towards the profit this week, but, a nice, easy, like, resale of something that got returned. So it's not something I really worry about all that much. Anyway, back to actual sales that I'm counting towards profit. We've got this iPod Nano, 4th gen, it's an 8 gigabyte model. Kind of a rarer color. Unfortunately, has to sell for parts, so it needs a new battery, but I'm not going to crack one of these iPods open to try to squeeze an extra like 10, 15 bucks out of it. So sold it for parts and got $19 with free shipping. Sold another iPod. I tend to like test and list things that are similar. So, the death pile is shrinking very, very fast, but I tend to kind of like bundle things together, and that's how I do my listing days. So if I am doing clothing, I will do like all clothing for 1 or 2 days, like photograph a ton of stuff, list a ton of stuff. It just goes a little bit faster that way. Been testing consoles. I had a big pile of consoles that is clearing out very, very quick. Next on the list is Xbox 360. So I probably got like 5 or 6 Xbox 360s back there with all the components and everything. And it's just easier to do the same console over and over because you kind of get in like a flow and they go a little bit faster. So the other day I listed a bunch of iPods that I had that was just kind of like sitting on. So I got this other iPod sold is an iPod mini, 6 gigabyte, second gen model. I think these are a little desirable because of the like form factor. They're a little nostalgic for people. I paid like $4 or $5 for an iPod and a couple of digital cameras from a garage sale recently. So I have about $2 into this iPod and sold it very, very fast for $50 plus shipping. Picked up this Dallas Cowboys sweater for $2 from a Goodwill just about a week ago and sold it for $17 plus shipping. Another cassette tape from that haul. So again, literally about 10 cents into this cassette tape. It is Bob Marley and the Wailers. Sold it for $15 and free shipping. Got another console. It's the PlayStation 1. I would estimate I have about 10 to 15 bucks into it and sold it for $45 plus shipping. And then the final item this week is this lot of Mark's Johnny West accessories. So these are accessories that would have come with like Western themed toys in the 1960s and 70s. I don't know exactly which sets they're from, and it's not really worth the trouble to try to look them all up. I made sure I didn't have anything like crazy rare here, but I bought a huge bundle of 60s toys, maybe like 7 or 8 figures and a bunch of accessories for, I think it was $20 from a garage sale, and I've already sold, I sold Tonto, and I sold some other character. I didn't grow up with this stuff, so I don't really remember what their names were. I'm already like $200 in the profit on these, and I've got a bunch more figures left to list. Just, again, been getting to them as I can. But then I just decided to list these accessories that weren't part of any particular set that I had, just as one big bundle. Sold that on an offer. I had it for $15, took an offer for $13.50 plus shipping, and that's everything I've got today. Let's get these packed up, head into the thrift store, let's get going. Now, before we hit the thrift store, if you're new here, I'm also on a quest to collect the top 50 Game Boy Advance games of all time, but the catch is I can only use up to 5% of the profits I make on eBay to buy new games for the collection. Now let's go hit the thrift store and hopefully we can find some good stuff to build the fund. And before we even walked in, check this thing out that was sitting in the window just waiting for us. This is a bronze sculpture of Abraham Lincoln produced by an artist in the 1950s that apparently holds some really good value. Granted, the one we got is a little beat up, but there is a recent sold comp for $1,200. I also found a few other items, this Tyndale fire-resistant jacket with comps around $50, this swatch for $5, that should be a nice little $20 to $25 item, and finally picked up this signed piece of pottery from Bill Campbell for $6 that should be around $25 or so. Today is Friday. It's actually Black Friday, so hope you all had a very happy Thanksgiving. And I know that I did, and still feeling it a little bit today. Feel very sluggish, and I think it's well deserved. So had all the usual fixings yesterday, a bunch of leftovers today, and taking it nice and easy at home after quite a bit of traveling yesterday. Before we get into all of the things, so the last time you saw me here was last Friday, and I knew the schedule this week was going to be a little weird. I only recorded last week once, and I'm only recording once this week as well. So this is actually 2 weeks worth of sales that you're seeing in this video. We've got this, the brand is Jonathan Adler. It is this salt and pepper shaker set. Picked up from a Goodwill for like $6 or $7, sold it for $30 plus shipping. We've got this vintage 1980s Panasonic boombox. I actually found this in a basement. This is like one of my go-to moves. Go down into the basement, go to like the husband's work area, and you're going to inevitably find tools and a bunch of stuff. And I keep finding vintage audio equipment. Panasonic, Sony, stuff like that, especially vintage stuff is really, really good. Unfortunately, this one did not end up working. But I paid $20 for it and did end up selling it 4 parts. Still got $40 plus shipping for that. Paid $25 from a Goodwill for these Doc Martens waterproof steel toe boots. Sold them for $65 plus shipping. Picked up this vintage 2000 Faces magazine with a bunch of Pokemon stuff in it. Paid $1 from a garage sale for this. Sold it for $7 plus shipping. Picked up this Yankee candle from an estate sale for $2 and sold it for $24 and free shipping. I think this is the best item we've got this week. This one up next. It is a set of 2 figures from the 2009. It's called Transformers Leader Class line. Had to do a bunch of research on these. They're actually very complicated figures. From my understanding, at least not in terms of like value, because I'm sure there's vintage stuff that's worth a lot more. But in terms of like the quality of the build and the figure and like all the stuff you can do with it, this is kind of considered one of the best things you can get if you're a Transformers fan, because it's just got tons and tons of detail. It makes sounds. It does fully transform, does some like crazy stuff. I paid $5 for the 2 of these from a garage sale and sold them very, very fast for $150 plus shipping. So $75 a figure. Awesome pickup there. Paid $15 for this Spec Ops The Line Xbox 360 game. Sold it for $28 plus shipping. Did a little bit better on this item than I expected. I picked up this Nike Major League Gaming hoodie from a Goodwill for $12 and sold it within about a week and a half for $89 plus shipping. Paid $2 for this Singamajigs from a garage sale, sold it for $19 plus shipping. Got a cassette tape, paid $1 for this from an estate sale and sold it for $13 and free shipping. We've got, if you've been following along, I've been selling a ton of Power Ranger stuff, picked up a ton from an estate sale a couple weeks back and been selling through it pretty quick, thankfully. Average, I'm going to guess we have about $2 or $3 into this. It is a Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue Blaster. Got $30 plus shipping for that. Paid $5 for this vintage 80s LL Bean full zip sweater. Sold it for $22 on an offer plus shipping. Got another vintage sweater here. This is from a garage sale. Paid $4 for this and sold it for $23 plus shipping. Really was on the fence about this purchase. It's from the 1980s, this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles blimp. It had a big hole in it, so had to sell it like kind of for parts. I think like in good shape, they're like $30 to $40, and figured somebody would be able to like fix it up or whatever. So paid $3 for it, sold it for $15 plus shipping, so not too bad. Picked up this Lululemon, it's called the Form Jacket for $3 from a garage sale and sold for $33 plus shipping. My wife kind of crushing these like art glass and pottery pieces recently. She paid $8 for this pottery piece from a thrift store. It was $8. It's from the maker Bill Campbell. Sold for $28 plus shipping within like an hour of listing it. So might have underpriced that one a little bit, but who knows. Paid $3 from a garage sale for this Cabela's leather belt. Sold for $15 plus shipping. Shout out to a commenter I got a few weeks back. I'm not sure why I never tried this, but I've had Wii's listed in the past that have sat for months and months and months. For whatever reason, just like couldn't sell them. They were priced really competitively. I think for a Wii, it's like not a super valuable console, so you got to make sure you have everything with it. And they had suggested pairing it with a copy of Wii Sports, which I did have listed separately. I usually just took the Wii's over to the game store. Would get like $25, $30 cash for them and was happy to do that, just get it quick. I was going through the trouble of testing it still just to not like waste the game store's time. I'm in there all the time, so I want to make sure like when I bring something in, they're not going to like, oh God, here we go, like this guy again, So I always make sure it's like clean and tested and like give them a good experience too. So, I've kind of been on the fence about whether to bother even bringing these in, but I did decide to list this one and paired it with a Wii Sports. So it's a complete console, cables, a Wii remote, nunchuck, and a copy of Wii Sports. It kind of was like experimenting with the pricing, was getting no views at $70 plus shipping, and decided to drop the price to $60, and then it sold very, very fast. If I was to sell this separately, could get like $20 for the Wii Sports, $40 for the Wii, so it's about the same putting it together, which is nice. But then if I was to trade it in, I could always sell that copy of Wii Sports, so that's not really value there. But, made like an extra $15, let's see, after fees, made like an extra $12, $13 being able to sell it myself on eBay. So definitely worth the trouble. It's not like, a crazy amount, but just happy to see that I'm actually capable of selling these. Was able to sell one. So I listed another bundle with a Wii Sports, so we'll see if that one sells later as well. But this bundle I actually picked up for $10 from a garage sale, so nice little profit there. I had these left over. They were just kind of in my board game collection, just like sitting in a box. I had these 16 unopened packs of the Trick or Trade cards. I maybe had like, about $10 into these, so this is kind of like a break even, but sold those 16 packs for $19 and free shipping. Sold another VCR, paid about $10 for this from a thrift store. It is the Sony SLV N81. Sold it for $50 plus shipping. Next up, we've got this sealed automaton electronic instrument. Paid $7 from a thrift store for this and sold it for $33 plus shipping. We've got another Heartland Plastics figure today. So I picked up a big bundle of these a few months back at a garage sale, $20 for a big bin. And I've been getting around to listing them this past week. Wanted to make sure they were up before Christmas. And so I estimate I had about $4 into this. It is from 1961. It's Johnny Yuma the Rebel. Comes with the rider, the horse, and his gun. Sold it on an offer for $115 plus shipping. Very, very quick. We sold that vintage Fenton Owl picked up from a thrift store last week for $7. Sold it for $125 plus shipping. And like I said, had a bunch of Wii's sitting around and tested all of them. And unfortunately, a bunch did not work. A lot of these were flea market buys like months and months and months ago. I got these for like, less than $10. So not too concerned about it, but it's just not really a sourcing venue I am all that interested in anymore. I've not really found good deals, or the quality of merchandise is really, really poor. Price isn't right. It makes sense. They're professional sellers. They're not looking to like give a reseller a deal. Like I understand. It just means it's not for me, So I don't really go to the flea market anymore, which means I'm getting less consoles, but I'm totally okay with it because I'm kind of over them. I'll buy them at garage sales if I see them from now on, but they got to be like great deals. They're just too much work for too little profit. I would rather get something else, to be honest with you. But I at least sold these 4 Nintendo Wii's that were 4 parts. They had some kind of issue. Got $45 plus shipping for those. We got $8, so paid $8 for this American Giant sweatshirt from a thrift store and sold it for $25 plus shipping. We've got another hoodie, paid $3 for this from a garage sale. It's this Philadelphia Eagles like green military theme, like kind of camo style. Sold it for $35 plus shipping. I do really, really well with these like Nike sports hoodies. They're not like the highest quality thing in the world, but I think just because, it's football season right now, it's Nike, the military theme in particular does really, really well on eBay for some reason. But hey, no complaints from me. Yeah, 3 into 35. Paid $10 for this Binding of Isaac Switch game. Was not really my cup of tea. I didn't really enjoy it that much, to be honest, but did get to play with it for a little bit. Decided to sell it for $31 plus shipping. Paid $1 for this. It's a long sleeve concert t-shirt from this artist R.L. Grime, who I had never personally heard of. I bought it because I just thought it looked kind of cool. I assumed it was some kind of like streetwear brand or something. Turns out it is like a EDM artist, and it's kind of hard to find. I found some Reddit thread with people being like, hey, where do you find R.L. Grime merch? And so I knew I'd be able to get a good price for this. Ended up taking an offer for $30 plus shipping on that one. Paid $16 for this LL Bean. It is called a commando sweater. Paid up for it a little bit, but I knew the sell-through rate was going to be good on it and sold it pretty fast for $32 plus shipping. And we've got 2 more items today. We've got this Microsoft Xbox One. It is the 500 gigabyte model. Paid $25 from a thrift store and sold it for $45 plus shipping. It's just the console and the cables. Unfortunately, I had like 3 or 4 Xbox One controllers that I assumed I would be able to pair with it, and literally every single one didn't work, which was kind of a bummer. I'm not going to do repairs or anything like that on that kind of stuff. Just going to bundle it up and sell it for parts to somebody else. Totally fine with that. But you can see why I'm not that interested in consoles unless you can get them really, really cheap. Or like, the vintage ones, like cartridge-based consoles sell really fast and for good money, and they almost always work, like NES, Super Nintendo, N64, Genesis, like all those consoles, they just don't break because there's no moving parts. Genesis don't do too well. They're not worth that much. But like all the cartridge-based Nintendo consoles do really, really well. Xbox One especially is like super slow, just not that desirable of a console. So yeah, only $45 plus shipping for that, but at least make a couple dollars on it. And then finally, pick this up for $5 from a thrift store. It is this Franklin Youth goalie mask. For like street hockey, sold it for $30 plus shipping on an offer literally today. So there you go. That is everything that's sold. Now we're going to tally up the game fund for 2 weeks worth of funds. And since we've got 2 weeks worth of sales here, we're going to add 2 games to the Game Boy Advance collection today. Let's go.
And with that, we generated $1,139 in profit over the last 2 weeks after eBay fees and income tax. Although I'm short of the goal, my average is climbing fast and I'm looking forward to a great December. Either way, we've got $96 in the game fund. Let's go shopping. And for $26 total, we are adding a copy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 and F-Zero Maximum Velocity, putting us at 7 out of our top 50 Game Boy Advance games. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next one.